Hello, I'm John Brink, and we are podcasting on the Brink from beautiful downtown Prince George, British Columbia. And for all those people from around the world that are watching us and don't remember my earlier conversations, Prince George is halfway north, actually 750 kilometers north of Vancouver. British Columbia is a big province, you know. It's about 1,500 kilometers long, north to east, or north to south, east to west. An amazing place. If you plan to go on a holiday, go to British Columbia. If you go to British Columbia, come to Prince George. An amazing place. Today, a very special guest, and her name is Rachelle Diachuk.
Hello.
How are you doing, Rachelle?
I'm very good, very good. Excited to be here, very honored that I've been invited to the podcast, so thank you.
I love it to have you. Are you see what we do is talk a little bit about the past, the present, and the future. Mm-hmm. And are you from this region here, Northern BC, or?
So I originally grew up in Squamish.
Okay.
So for those that don't know, Squamish now is like a suburb of Vancouver. But when I lived there, it was not. It was a tiny little, we didn't have a Walmart, we didn't have a movie theater.
No.
It was very small,
It's become a large.
Very big and a completely different
and
vibe
beautiful
there.
Beautiful too, right?
Oh my gosh.
Location.
Stunning.
Yeah.
A different type of beauty, right?
Yeah.
Than somewhere like here. But I grew up in Squamish. I lived there until I was 11.
Okay.
And then my dad, working for CN, got transferred to Prince George.
Okay.
So I came with him. And halfway through grade 6, I think it was. So I did a midway through the year transfer. So that definitely was
bit of a shocker.
A challenge, and nerve-wracking, leaving all of your friends and your comfortability at that time of the And then my parents had separated at that time, so not having a mom around had its own struggles and challenges. But,
well, sure.
But so I moved here at 11, and then I was one of those people that did not love Prince George at first.
Right.
So it took me quite a while to feel that this is my home. Now I feel that way, but throughout high school was really hard for me. I got in a lot of trouble. Yeah. I didn't really know where I fit in, so I probably rebelled a little bit more than, and so the day after high school, at this point, I was actually living with a boyfriend. I got kicked out of my home when I was 15.
Okay.
So I moved away like the day after graduation. I got my diploma and I was like, peace out, Prince George.
Yeah.
And ended up kind of moving mostly in BC. So I was living in Merritt for a little while. I was living in Vernon for a while.
You were pretty young though.
I was very young. Yeah. Looking back now, it's like I'm going to be 35 this summer. And I have friends who have kids that were around that age, like 15.
But for your age,
kid,
very
man.
independent.
You are, I was very, very independent. Yeah, absolutely.
And so what did you do in Merritt?
I was, I worked at Easy
16.
Home. At
17,
17, I was living in Merritt. Yeah, I was serving. So I've been serving. Every once in a while, I'll still serve, at a pub, Westwood Pub. I worked for years and lots of places in Prince George. But serving was kind of my biggest job throughout my early 20s to mid 20s before Sunset Studio came into my life.
Yeah.
But I worked for a lease-to-own furniture store. Right. So I moved around opening up those stores. So
you work for a furniture store?
So it's called Easy Home. We have one in Prince George. I started
Which one is it?
It's in the Parkwood Mall or the Spruceland.
And what's the name?
It's called Easy Home.
Oh, Easy
It's
Home.
like lease-to-own furniture store. It's an interesting company to work for, but even though I had some challenging times in my early adolescence, like so many people, I was pretty driven. Yeah. So when any job that I've ever worked for the most part, I've always kind of excelled and moved towards more the management role.
Yeah.
So I got hired on at Easy Home here at like 16, 17. And then I was asked to open up a store in Merritt with like the other manager. So I moved to Merritt to do that. And then we moved to Vernon. So I was relocated with this company to work for the different sectors. And so when I ended up in Vernon, I decided, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. And I just full-time bartended and served. And that took me to Fort McMurray, where I worked for about a year. And this was when Fort McMurray was like, it's different now, of course, before the fires, and before big changes in the economy. But I was making a lot of money in Fort McMurray
Just for
serving.
the benefit of our guests, Fort McMurray is in Alberta, the next province over. And where is it in relationships to Edmonton?
More north. Driving from Edmonton, if you're driving, I want to say it's like a 6-hour drive. I could be wrong, but it's up there. Yeah.
Is it further?
And it's like it's Fantasy Island. That's what we called it when I lived there, because it's very different. It's very different.
Fort McMurray is where they have the oil sands. And again, I'm not an expert on it, other than to say anything to do with oil means it's a boom town. And it had found a way in which to extract the oil from the oil sands. And my understanding is that it is one of the biggest oil reserves in the world. And then all of a sudden, what happened to McMurray, it was this small community, and all of a sudden it exploded into...
You're totally right. It was wild.
Yeah.
It was wild. It's such a small it's such a small little town, but then you have people that are mostly men working there for sets of time, sometimes up to months at a time, doing shutdowns, and they don't have anything to do while they're making buttloads of money except go out and spend it on servers. And get into also a pile of trouble. I am kind of generalizing there, but there's a lot of drug and substance abuse issues in that area. Back then, I can't speak for it now, but yeah, working in the service industry, I was making ridiculous amounts of money. And at that time of my life, I was just on the end of my partying stage. So I kind of came into it and was able to save that money and be pretty responsible with it. And I was out of there within a year.
That's exceptional.
It was, you know what, honestly looking back, it is, because a lot of the girls I was working with
because
back then,
were in your early 20s then?
Yeah, I was 21 years old. And I was making a lot of money. And that kind of demographic of people that I was working with, and just the culture of that service industry where I was, it was a lot of drinking and drugs and partying and spending your money on very frivolous things. And I was just socking it away. And I ended up, so I was with somebody at that time who was 15 years my senior. So 20 years old with a 35-year-old man who was my manager. And we ended up splitting up. He was cheating on me, and so the engagement ring got, I sold it for $50 to the first person I could find, and and I just kind of blew up my life there, and I went traveling for 2 years.
So how long were you there?
I was there for just under a year. It was like 11 months and
a lot happened in 1 year.
I was able to pay for almost 2 years without having to go back to any work, and I traveled the world and just lived a gypsy nomad life from like 22 to 24.
So then just coming back to what it kind of looked like, because I came here from Holland in 1965, came off the bus here a couple of blocks up. I had a dream. We were liberated by the Canadian Army, April the 12th, 1945. Wow. I left, was a rough go for my mother with 3 little kids.
I can imagine.
A dad that we didn't know other than he was in the bombing of Rotterdam. We didn't know if he was dead or alive, didn't know for 5 years.
Oh my God.
And so she had to kind of survive, and it was tough because at nighttime there were hundreds of planes overhead bombing Germany. And then at the same time, during the war years, there was no food, there was no heat. The hunger winter of, they called it 1944, 45, a lot of kids died, a lot of old people died, those that were vulnerable, and it was just a tough go. And, for her, and I was born in 1940, November the 1st, 1940. And but then when we got liberated, I was so impressed by the Canadian Army that liberated us that I always knew from the time I was 5 years old, I would go to my heroes in Canada.
Wow.
There was no question. For me, it was just not if, but when.
Yeah.
I tried to go when I was 17.
Yeah.
My parents wouldn't let me then.
Yeah.
Then I was drafted into the Dutch Air Force.
Okay.
And was in there for 2 years.
Yeah.
Mandatory. And then after that came out, worked in the forest industry. My dad managed a small lumber company, so that's where the attraction to lumber.
That makes sense.
And so my second dream was that go to Canada, build my own lumber mill.
Yeah.
And then obviously trying to get as much knowledge as I could. And then, I know I had to go to British Columbia. That's where the timber is.
Yeah.
So, and then when I came by train to Vancouver, by plane to Montreal, plane to Vancouver, when I came off the train, went to the immigration office, fortunately met a German fella there.
Wow.
And I could speak some German. I could not speak English. I didn't know a soul. I didn't have a job.
Wow.
So I told him what I wanted to do, and this comes to Boomtown. He said, I told him my dream was to build my own lumber mill. He said, Prince George. 1965, this was the Boomtown.
Yeah.
It was no different than Fort McMurray was, that, that if people meet you and say, how long have you been here and when are you leaving, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And so I came here and,
Been home ever since for the most part?
Yeah. I had a suitcase, 3 books, and then...
That's amazing.
$25.47.
That's right.
And then the other thing that to me always meant a lot is attitude, passion, work ethic. But follows
Takes
success.
you very far. Takes you very far in life, I think.
I believe so too.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so that's kind of what I did. And, so then kind of coming back to what you did, in a way you had all kinds of challenges ahead, somehow worked your way through it, did very well because of ending up in Fort McMurray.
Yeah.
That's the name, Fort McMurray.
Yeah.
Was the Boomtown, and obviously the specialty that you were familiar with, bars in terms of, because that's what you did already.
Yeah.
Well, Fort McMurray is, that's the place, right?
It was a very interesting time because I feel like in life, I'm sure you'll relate to this, that there are different opportunities that you can take, different forks in the road that you can go down.
Exactly.
And one fork might lead you to a situation or a life that is not full of attitude, passion, and work ethic. We can make those choices, and we can also make the choices that lead us to building really incredible things and being innovative and changing the lives of people. It's just all about choices. So I think Fort McMurray was a really big transitional time for me where I could have, even Prince George in my earlier years, I could have very easily gone down some different roads. I mean, talk to any of my teachers and family members, they are shocked that I am where I'm at because just of what my behaviors were like back then and the choices I was making back then. But people change, and
you grew up very, very fast. Likely that is the difference in your particular case. And then, and so it did in my case.
Yeah.
And in fact, one of the books that I'm writing right now and did just the final, because we also make it audible. I did the last interview this morning on the book. The book will come out in July, and it is about finding your passion, living the dream.
Amazing. That's going to be such an inspirational book. I can't wait to hear it.
I'm going to say, give you a copy. Comes out in July. I'll make sure you get a copy.
Cool.
of it.
Thank you.
So that in being said, then you had the foresight that through adversity and all the other things that happened, is that you then decided to go travel, see something of the world.
Oh yeah.
I was kind of looking at your bio.
Traveling
because,
changes your life, man.
Yeah, you went from Fort McMurray.
Yeah.
So why and how did you do that? Because now you had to make some major decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, a changing of a relationship that you had, and then the other one is then did you then make the choice in saying, I'm going to travel around the world? I want to see something of the world. Is that something you always already wanted to do?
I definitely had like the itch to travel. However, I was very scared. I was a very nervous child and a very nervous adolescent and just felt very like scared of things like that were outside of my comfort zone. But when that relationship ended and I felt very much like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with my life, I thought to myself, okay, now's the time to see the world, because I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. I didn't have really a home. I couldn't go back to Prince George at the time. I didn't feel like Vernon was my home. Fort McMurray, I needed to get the hell out of there. So I thought, okay, now's my opportunity to go and do something scary, and let's do it. So the first time I traveled, I went to Bangkok. I went to Southeast Asia, and I traveled there for just over a month by myself at 23, 22 years old.
My God.
And the people that I met on that journey, I ended up making really great connections. When you travel, it's amazing. You meet people and you're like fast friendships, and you bond, and you get to know people on a really deep level. Yeah. And I met a lot of Australians. Australians do a lot of traveling, and a lot of those Australians invited me to their home. So I went to Australia and I traveled almost the entire East Coast and the southern part of Australia for almost 3 or 4 months, I want to say I was there for. And I literally just couch surfed. Like, I stayed at people's houses, I stayed at their parents' places, and everyone took such great care of me. It was a really beautiful experience.
Good transition.
Oh my
right?
God. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it was a lot of like clarity. Okay, where am I gonna go next? So eventually I did end up coming back to Prince George.
Yeah. But you went other places as well, right? Yeah. So tell me about where else did you go?
Yeah, I've been to Ireland, all of Ireland.
Why Ireland?
Ireland, why not? So Ireland was one of the places that when I did that trip to Southeast Asia, I met somebody from Ireland. Yeah. And basically that trip to Southeast Asia was a really great stepping stone to all of the other travels because I met so many incredible people that I literally just went to go visit them where they were from.
The north or the south of Ireland?
All of Ireland. All of Ireland. Yeah, we rented a car and I drove stick shift with my left hand around the cliffs and up Dublin, all of Ireland. Yeah, I would go back.
To the steering wheel, isn't it?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was so fun. It was. I was the only one in my friend group there that could drive stick, so I was stuck driving stick on the wrong side of the road. It was really fun though. Yeah. It's a really cool experience. Yeah, really cool. Yeah, so Ireland, a little bit of Europe, Peru. Where else? A lot of Australia, like I said. So seeing the world is such an important thing. Not yet. Not yet. You'll have to take me there. I like to have I like to go places where people so you can see the real. Yeah. You know, it's one thing to go and go to the touristy places, but
otherwise you go to the other places.
I want to see all the things. So traveling really changed me. I felt very confident after traveling because I was so scared.
Very critical for you and. Kind of growing up in that stage, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I felt that when I got on my flight to go to Bangkok, so my very first traveling, before I even knew about mantra, what that is, a mantra is when you repeat like a positive statement over and over and over again. I got on that flight and I swear that however many hours it is, I think it was 17 hours on that flight. And I just kept saying to myself, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. Yeah. And I just, when I arrived there, I'm like, okay, now I'm here and now I just need to get to the hotel. And it's like, hey, you can do this, you can do this. And then when I finally arrived, I was like, I did it. I did this thing that I'm so scared of. Yeah. So I think that really made an impression in the cells of me so that now and for the last 10, 15 years.
You got kind of shocked
I am
into
like
it
a yes
of
person.
Happened,
Somebody
right?
says, you want to do this thing? I'm like, yeah, I do. I'm a little bit nervous. I'm a little bit scared. Yeah. It's going to be great. Let's do the thing. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you went back to Prince George.
And then I came back to Prince George. I had a little bit more money, in my account. And I came to Prince George and I bought a house. And I still have that house. We were talking about it. Yeah, so 10 years ago now, I bought a little home and it's served its purpose for the last 10 years and got a dog and met my partner and now Prince George is home. And of course with Sunset Studio, it's such a huge part of my life that, I had moved back to Prince George at 24. And at this time I was still serving, still kind of not really sure what I was going to do with my life.
But a life already behind you though.
Yeah.
that
actually
really
people tell me that I should write a book because I got a lot of life in this 35-year-old experience so far.
The same title as mine, Against All Odds.
Yeah, I like that name. It's a good one.
So
yeah.
So then you came back. Then so you now have a home. You're only 24. Then what?
Then at that point, I was still in that transitional phase of like, I don't really know what I want to do with my life.
Right.
And I ended up having I don't know what you want to call it, midlife crisis at 27. So at 26, 27, I was like, okay, I need to go back to school and I need to like figure out what I'm going to do. Because when I was in high school, I did not do very well. I took all of the easiest courses and I just kind of plugged along. And so when it was time to do upgrading, I had a lot of upgrading to do just to get into a program. I was actually going to go to school or go and get into the forestry industry. That was like my whole plan. I'm going to get into the forestry industry. Sure,
because
why not?
Because there was so much of the industry.
Honestly,
here?
I don't even know why. I decided to do that. But I applied to get into this program and they were like, okay, you need to do all this upgrading. So I did all this upgrading and then I applied for the program.
Did you apply by my company?
You know what? I should have. What was I thinking? See, the decisions that we make. Who knows? I could be in a very different place. But I thought, okay, this is my life. I'm on this trajectory. I'm going to go to school and I'm going to, get into the forestry industry and I'm going to, be a conservation officer. I had this life plan. And I got the letter in the mail saying, you are on a wait list of, I think it was like 11 people wait list. And it's like, you're not getting into this program this year. And I was like, no. So
was it a CNC?
Yeah, it was at CNC. And I remember I was devastated because I was like, this was my plan. Like, this is my adult life. I'm going to like make all these decisions. So I had this very emotional situation and I was speaking with a friend and my friend said to me, you should become a yoga teacher. And I was like, what? At this point, like, I've never done yoga. I was never athletic. I never played sports. I didn't know anything about anything in this realm that I'm now obsessed with.
You're fit though, even then.
Not fit from maybe the external view. Like I've always been fairly, like my weight hasn't fluctuated. I've been fairly, mobile and able-bodied, but I never played a sport. I was not athletic. I never did anything really physical. I just I've always looked the way that I look for the most part. But just my mentality of, I think, like how I look at things and just my open-mindedness and how connected I am to nature. My friend suggested this and I was like, I don't know, maybe. So I applied to the yoga teacher training that was happening in Prince George and I got in. And the amount of money...
Where was that?
Here in Prince George. Okay. It was actually at the yoga studio that I just recently, last year, almost a year ago to this day, I took over. So it was called, it's been called so many different things, but it's the one on Spruce Land, or behind Spruce Land Mall. So the teacher training was there with a woman I'd never heard of before, with, this whole new world that I had no idea anything about. It started in 2 weeks. She called me up and said, you're accepted. And I said, okay, how much is it? And it was the exact amount of money that I had in my account for the forestry thing I was going to do. And I was like, okay, sure. I'm a yes person now. Let's do this thing. So I started it and got certified 7 years ago, almost to the day, 7 years ago to the day. And it changed my life. It changed my life so much in every aspect, every aspect of it. Yoga.
Purely coincidental.
Purely coincidental or fate. I don't know. I don't know.
It makes you wonder, right?
Yeah, it totally does. That choice, just that choice, not getting into the program and then my friend suggesting it and then me saying yes. And then I was the last person to be accepted into it. She only had one spot left, and the amount of money that I had for it. So it was all very
meant to be.
Serendipitous, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
So
pretty incredible.
So then you did the program, a fairly intensive program, or
it was intensive in its own right, for sure. It was, so for people that don't know, a yoga teacher training, to become certified to teach yoga, what you need is a 200-hour training. That's kind of like your basic, boom, you've got the certification, you can go teach yoga now. It's very much the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot missing, but it's 200 hours. So there's only so much that you can learn in that 200 hours. you can do a 200-hour in an intensive, meaning like it's done in like 17 days, or you can do it over like a course of, you know, weekends. It can be a year long. It can be kind of stretched out in different lengths. So the one that I participated in for my first was over the course of 3 months. And it was like every other weekend for like long lengths of time. And yeah, I was definitely the most beginner. I had, like I said, I think I'd gone to like 2 or 3 yoga classes before I went to become a certified teacher.
Right.
And it was just a lot of eye-opening of the things that I didn't know. So that when I got that certification, I just said yes to every opportunity. So I started teaching at pretty much all the gyms in town. I taught for the school district. I taught out of my friends' basements. I just said, okay, I'm gonna start teaching yoga. Let's do this thing.
Exactly.
And yeah.
You did your 200 hours. I didn't know that there was. So that gives you a certification by a qualified individual. That then, for there on, then you started doing it in gyms. You started advertising, and then by word of mouth, you got to know you. And then it kind of built into that over what kind of a period?
Absolutely, yeah. So I think when you first become a yoga teacher, have to really be your own. You're an entrepreneur. You have to sell yourself. You have to market. There's so many things that you don't think about being a yoga instructor.
Nothing new to you, Rachelle.
No,
because
exactly.
you were an entrepreneur from 15.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So what I learned from getting my 200-hour and then teaching right away was that I didn't know enough. That's how I felt. I felt very much like imposter syndrome, like I'm not good enough to do this. I need more knowledge.
Yeah.
So I went from a 200-hour training in May to another 200-hour training in November, because I was like, you know what, I'm really loving
in a formal
teaching.
setting.
This one was another formal setting. This one was on Texada Island, so that's an island off of Vancouver
I saw
Island.
That on there.
Yeah.
Texada is off Vancouver Island, right?
Yeah.
So where is it in the neighborhood of?
Oh gosh, how did I get
Nanaimo,
there?
or?
I remember I had to take like 3 ferries to get there. I haven't been back since then, so I probably butcher how to get there, but it's a very small island. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And that one I was there for the intensive. I was there for 17 days, and I did a whole nother 200-hour training because I was like, I need to know more.
In that 17-day period.
Yeah.
And that gave you comfort in your mind.
Much more confidence.
Yeah, so that you now knew.
I felt like, okay, now I'm keeping people more safe.
Which was critically important,
Which was
right?
really important. Yeah, absolutely.
Because
and
I already hear
learning.
you don't like to do things if you don't feel comfortable in doing it. If that is serving in the bar or if it, whatever setting, until you feel meant, and I would feel the same.
Yeah.
Until I feel, okay, I got this.
Totally. Yeah, that was exactly it. Yeah.
So then now you come to the point that you have the background, you have the ability. The other thing that I noticed is you are preppy. Is that the right word where you are?
Peppy? Yeah, peppy. Sure, peppy. Yeah, I'll take it.
And you are
pretty energetic.
Yeah. In a very good communicator. Yeah,
Thank you.
I believe, and you look comfortable with you.
Oh, it took me a long time to get this way.
For me too.
Yeah.
So and saying, and for me no different. Took me a lot longer than you at 24. But it's so critically important for where you would go from there on in.
Oh my gosh, 100%. I wouldn't change how I did things at all, because that first training. Here's another thing. So every 200-hour training, though, like for the most part, you're learning somewhat the same things, but every person's going to facilitate different, and every training is going to have a different emphasis on certain things, right?
Yeah.
So the first one was very like emotional, and we would do these check-ins and people would be crying, and it was like very much the spiritual. And then the second training I did was very structured and very anatomy based and very much more science based. And so I had a really good kind of best of both worlds. So then so that was in November, the following May, the studio, May of 2016.
Okay.
Then in 2017, the fall of 2017, one of the studios that I was working for, Sunset Studio, came up for sale.
Yeah.
And my partner and I looked at each other and said, should we do this thing?
Yeah.
And so in June, we bought Sunset Studio after only teaching yoga for 1 year, which some people probably are like, what? Why? But I just felt like, you know what, I knew when I started teaching yoga that this is my forever.
Yeah.
This is my thing.
Yeah.
Like I
You
love
found
the
your
practice
niche,
of yoga, but I love teaching yoga.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a difference there. Like I really love having my students feel empowered and giving them choices to listen to their body. You know, we live in a very autopilot world where we're so disconnected to our body.
Exactly.
And just having that space to connect and breathe and be in community is really powerful.
Right.
So we bought the studio and it has been a wild ride since then. So it's our 6-year anniversary this June.
Amazing.
I
6
know.
years, right?
6 years. Oh,
Yeah.
it's incredible. Yeah, this
So
community
that
has
was
been really supportive.
Big step for you and your partner. And so then where is it located physically?
So our first location is 1717 3rd Avenue. It's in the Spruce Capitol building, which is right by Books and Company.
Yeah,
So Books and
right
Company,
next to
it's
it.
like two buildings over. And then we took over the second location behind Spruce Land Mall last year.
Yeah, so they had 2 locations when you bought the one.
It was just the one location when I bought it. Yeah.
And then another location became available.
Yeah.
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 So, so that's become a fairly big company.
Oh yeah.
You know,
yeah,
in the yoga business.
It was pretty interesting because they always say, you know, the first 3 years of your business, it's, you know, you're treading water, you're not quite sure, you might not be making a lot of money, you know, you're just kind of figuring things out, which was definitely my case. Like I felt like I was just kind of getting my toes wet. I didn't really know much about business. It obviously was my first, you know, real entrepreneurial endeavor. But the community has been so supportive and wonderful, and I feel very, very fortunate that I had very humble beginnings. Like I'm talking, my class sizes were like 3-4 people, 5 people, you know, so you get an opportunity to really connect with those people and form a relationship with them. And they want to see you succeed as much as I want to see them, you know, continue their practice. So it's been incredible keeping those relationships, even though we've been on this really incredible trajectory of growth. You know, COVID hit and, you know, being shut down we got shut down 6 times over that 2-year period.
That was tough.
Devastating, but also a really big opportunity to pivot.
But you only had it for 2 years when COVID
Exactly.
came.
Yeah. We were 2.5 years at that point, and COVID hit, and
But you didn't have the second location yet, right?
No.
So at least you still had the one.
Just had the one, and you know what? It couldn't have worked any better in our favor with just that one location, and with the fact that I had such humble beginnings because I had such a relationship with my community that everyone continued to pay their membership. Which in larger studios, I watched so many studios in BC and Alberta get shut down because people weren't paying their membership anymore. Because why would they? Because they're not offering anything.
Exactly.
But I pivoted day one. I started a YouTube channel, like literally March 15th, 2020. I started a YouTube channel.
That was good foresight though.
Oh yeah. I was like, you know what? This thing is not going away.
Because
I got to get virtual immediately.
But most people didn't get that.
No.
And by the time they got it, it was usually too late.
Totally.
Right?
So I started the virtual.
Because people had committed to other.
Exactly.
things,
right. Yeah. So starting the virtual platform so quickly in the game, I think that my community and the people that were paying their bills felt like, hey, she's doing the best she can. The rates were pretty low, you know, in comparison to some other studios in BC. You know, our rates were pretty low because my rent's low. You know, it's a smaller business, so people felt comfortable still paying, which was amazing. So during COVID, I actually grew because our virtual platform reached people in the States and all across Canada. So I'd have 20, 30, 35 people on a virtual class paying, you know, $10 a drop-in for that class.
Yeah, because now, but the whole idea, but saved you or made you grow being so agile in terms of taking advantage of the opportunity.
Oh, for
because
sure.
all of that was relatively new. Most of the people were sitting there, how long is this going to go on for, and what do we do now?
It was scary.
And all of a sudden, the people are leaving, doing other stuff, and
Oh yeah.
so
absolutely.
it's typical for entrepreneurship in a way.
Yeah.
And as you know, when I started here, 3 employees, I had $25,000 from a bank, and now I have to invent something in the forest industry. And then a lot of times when I did during the period of nearly 50 years now, 48 years, that I had to lay awake all night because by tomorrow I have to figure out something that I can tell the bank. We changed direction, and and I could not do that. I could not have survived in a lot of cases if I did not have the ups and downs going through the tough times, where all of us...
It makes you resilient. You're very resilient, having hardships and recognizing that you can move through those, and
Exactly.
that you have to kind of, no one's going to do it for you. That's a pretty important life skill. And I think having that, you're going to be successful if you put it to the right thing.
Right? Attitude, passion, work ethic.
100%.
Stay the course.
Yep.
Avoid the negative, because they will never avoid this, but because there are always naysayers, and stay in the course, and it well. So your whole history, right from the time that you were 15, or probably even before that, but all part in building you and who you are, and in bringing you to where you are now, and well beyond. Right?
Our stories matter. That's something that I'm coming to realize, that
no question about
it does influence how you show up in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful for my hardships and for the challenges, because I like who I am now, and I'm really proud that I'm able to hold space for people and have them have experiences that show the light of who they are, and that hey, struggles happen, and life's hard sometimes, but focusing in on the things that, like you said, that are positive, it can make a huge difference.
For me, it was a little bit different. In a way, it was the same as you, but in a little bit different in my way, because I grew up during the war years, and then and had an effect on me. There's no question about it. It was PTSD.
Oh yeah.
What we used to do at the time that I was 4.5, 5 years old, together with my brother 2 years older, my sister 1 year older. We used to go every morning with gunny sacks into the rail yards and finding anything edible and burnable.
Wow.
And we did it as kids because they wouldn't shoot us.
Yeah.
They would just boot us one, and we would do it every day. To do that, and was my mom alone.
Yeah.
And the effect of that, in a way, was even when I was in my late 50s, I got counseling for the inner child. Didn't even know what it meant then, but very emotional, very, very powerful. And anyway, and then I went to school, and I failed grade 3. Nobody fails grade 3.
That's unheard of. You're like, I can't. And you weren't sharing. That's the problem.
And then I failed grade 7 three times.
No. Oh no.
Yeah, and then they said, what are we going to do with this guy? My parents were lovely people, obviously, and so people said, well, I think you have to send him to the mentally challenged school.
No.
Fortunately, they didn't do that. So they
Can you imagine if that would have been your life story? Maybe you'd be where you are, maybe you wouldn't. Well.
So then I got a job being trained as a furniture maker.
Wow.
So I went to a furniture factory, and and then it was kind of intimidating in a way, because all the kids that I used to go to school with in grade 7, and you know it well because that was around the age. That's why I kind of relate to you about that. All of a sudden, the kids were all my friends and all the other things, and then something happened, so I got a job, and then I always remember there was 3 weeks of holidays in the summertime, but then when I got another report card that I had failed again, that Sunday my dad took me to a friend's store where they had clothes, and my furniture the furniture factory where I was working,
Yeah.
and then going to school in the evening to learn furniture making. He had to get me 3 pairs of coveralls. And so they got me a set of coveralls. I was small for my size,
Aw.
and then if I had my coveralls on, they had to roll them way
Yeah.
up here. The crotch was hanging here, which was modern now, but
Yeah,
not then.
yeah, exactly.
And
You were
so
setting trends.
And the kids didn't want to ride bike with me, and now I was a laborer.
Aw.
Yeah, I know. So
Jeez, eh?
I know, and so all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I was a happy-go-lucky guy, regardless. But deep down, I felt I had been a failure.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
the
it,
perception of things.
yeah, and then I went into the Air Force, and in the Air Force, I wanted to be a pilot, and they didn't make me a pilot. I became a pilot later, but anyway,
Wow.
I wanted to, and then they put me in Special Forces. Can you imagine, for this little guy?
Wow.
But I was brown belt judo. The only thing that I can think of is that he put me there for that.
Oh
I
my
don't know.
gosh.
Good training.
That is so cool. I
Yeah.
didn't know that about you.
Yeah, very good training.
Very
And,
cool.
So then I came out, and then a couple of years later, I felt I had failed, and I was already successful working for the largest lumber importer of Western Europe. I was working there in their auditing department, and I was progressing very well, even with my background.
Yeah.
And I had a good career, but
Yeah.
I still was struggling with this. So one day I decided to go to Den Haag. That's where the Canadian embassy was. I applied for the land of immigrant status, and somehow they accepted it. And I said 3 weeks later, I want to be in Canada. So then I left. I took $150 when I left Amsterdam, 1 suitcase, 3 books, 1 set of clothes, and I knew I wanted to go to British Columbia. And my second dream was to build my own lumber mill.
Incredible.
And then by the time I got here, I had exactly that $25.47. No job, couldn't speak the language. Started right from the bottom up.
Yeah.
And then the point that I want to make is this one. That already when I started building the mill 10 years later, or actually let me say it this way, because it kind of relates to what you were talking about, is that, I got a job as cleanup man here, and then I became a lumber pilot. That was a promotion.
Wow.
Piled lumber for 9 months, and then I know how it works in companies. You have to get noticed, and then somebody noticed me and say, this guy got potential.
It's all about connections, baby.
And then very quickly I was to a supervisor.
Wow.
And I became a superintendent of one of the largest mills, but that didn't go fast enough for me.
No, yeah, come on.
So I then had an opportunity to go become a manager of a small sawmill.
Wow.
And created the option of buying 1/3 of the interest.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
In Watson Lake, Yukon.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And have you been in Watson Lake, Yukon?
No, but I'd love to go. Will you show me around?
I would say,
I want to go to the Yukon so bad.
Then it was a boom town.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there was not much to do. It sounds like Fort McMurray,
Yeah.
but it was not booming.
Right.
But there was lots of mines around it.
Okay.
And people had lots of money. The only
Wow.
entertainment there was go to the bar and drink.
Yeah, and
booze.
then give the servers a bunch of money.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then from there on in, I was there for 5 years, and then I didn't think that the mill was going to go the direction I thought it would go. I came back to Prince George, then started Brink Forest Products in 1975.
1975.
Yeah,
Wow.
and with 3 employees, and then I had about $25,000 to build this mill. Whole new idea.
Wow.
But the point that I was going to make is this one. Started from the beginning.
Yeah.
Worked as long as I could stay awake, 24 hours a day,
Yeah.
preferably 7 days a week, and to build the company.
Wow.
And then even right up to the time that I was 57, I was still, people would say to me, oh my God, you're so successful and blah, blah, blah. I didn't feel that. And even then, it was just pure coincidence that I walked into the bookstore that you were referring to on Ford.
Yeah.
That I walked in there and I saw this book, and I opened the book, I don't know why I did this. I opened the book, and the book's title was Driven to Distraction. And I looked at it, it was ADHD. I had never even heard of it.
Right.
No idea. And the more I looked at it, the more I said, oh my God.
Like, that's me.
That's me.
Wow.
And I wrote in the book, in Dutch, because I was ashamed of it, is that now I finally know who I am.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so, and then it took me probably 5 years before I talked to my doc. So now, then I'm 62.
Wow.
It took me 5 years. The doc that delivered my 2 daughters was a good personal friend.
Yeah.
That I go into his office, and he said, well, why are you here, John? I said, I think I got ADHD.
Wow.
And so we
That's
looked
how
at
that
it.
came about. Holy.
And we looked at it together, and he said, I think so too. And then it took me quite a number of other years until I then became more public about it. Now, the other thing that I should say is that I was not a good communicator, is that right up to the time
Well,
probably...
you did Toastmasters, right?
Toastmasters.
Yeah. I'm so curious. I want to
did that
do that.
Well, you're a good communicator. You have confidence. I didn't. I was a Toastmaster for 10 years.
10 years,
They virtually had to drag me in there.
Really?
Yeah, because I said,
You were
okay,
too
but what is it
nervous.
all about?
Yeah.
They said, well, nothing. You can just sit there and listen. I said, are they going to ask me anything? I said, no. Well, then I sit there, and the next thing they say, okay, John, talk. I said, oh my God.
Like, get me out of here.
Get me out of here.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go back. Well, I did go back. I was there for 10 years. And
Amazing.
I'm a distinguished Toastmaster. That's the highest level. I'm not bragging. I'm simply telling this because it changed my life to where, to be a distinguished Toastmaster, there is probably, I would say, 300 to 400,000 active Toastmasters around the world.
Wow.
There's about 6 clubs here and all over the place.
Wow.
There's probably several million of Toastmasters that have taken a certain level of Toastmastering. Of all of those, there is probably less than between 0.5% and 1% that will reach the level of distinguished Toastmaster.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not to say that.
No, but it just shows that you're
I wanted to go
driven.
I was driven by it.
Yeah. Got the passion.
So, but it changed my life because now all of a sudden.
Open some doors.
And so that I did that, and then then let me talk to you about the books a little bit because we talked about that. So. After all of that, no different than you see the similarities in a way. You were lucky that you already by the age of early 20s, you had it pretty much together, and then more so as you went forward.
To some extent, we'll say that. I'll agree with you.
Work with me.
Yeah, I'm working with you here.
So then I said, then I thought about a book. I thought about it for a long time, and not to just share with people that if things go tough, if you stay the course, never give up and do this and then. Not a book. This is not a book saying "Hurrah, hurrah, John." It's not about that. It's just the opposite. It's about falling down, standing up, falling up, and staying the course.
Yes.
It took me this one, quite popular actually. Against all odds, it took me 80 years to live it. 20 years to think about it, 2 years to write it.
I love that you just said that because I was going to ask you, how long did it take you to write these books? I feel like that would take such a long time to get it the way you want it to be read and understood. I feel like there'd be draft after draft of oh, this is crap.
I did that.
Yeah?
I did that for 20 years. I did that.
Wow, yeah.
And then say, well, I need somebody to help me with this and that and the other thing.
But that just shows your book writing was going against all odds too. You're oh no, this doesn't work. Okay, I'm going to do it again. Oh, this doesn't work. That draft sucks. I'm going to do it again.
The difference ratio was that if I don't do it now, I'm going to be 83 in November. Then I won't. It doesn't matter anymore. Well, I'm going to be around for a long time. But in any event, I did it, and then
incredible.
And then the other part about it is that if it is an autobiography, I cannot write it and then say, it's not right. So let me write another one. You can only do
Yeah, you only get one shot.
It better be good. So this one is a good one.
Very
so
cool.
I'm
Very
gonna
cool.
sign this one for you
Yay.
before we go.
Thank you.
And then I'm gonna come back to the other one. You know, so I knew confidentially, not then, not now, that I got ADHD, you know. So now, what am I going to do? Think about 20 years ago, so 10 or 15 years ago. You know, I go to the bank and I want to lend from them or borrow from them X amount of millions of dollars because I'm building the mill, and I say everything is fine. I unfortunately I have a mental challenge, you know, it's ADHD, and say, have a nice day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, oh, that's devastating.
So, but then I felt I had to become more public about it. So
good for you.
Now the interesting part about it is that I think it was May 31st, 2019. I was awarded, a couple of things happened to me. I got the Order of British Columbia. I'm pretty honored in getting that. And then, but at the same time, I already had, you know, got the, the book for one, and then I got an honorary doctorate from the University of Northern British Columbia.
Oh my gosh.
It's grade 7. Give me a break. You know? So anyway, I'm very honored by it.
Yeah, as you should be. As you should be. Absolutely.
So I'm very pleased with it. Anyway, so when I did my presentation there, you know, then I talked more about, you know, my background, about entrepreneurship, all the things that I love to talk about, but also about the things that are more delicate in terms of, and that's the same as the book.
Being vulnerable and showing that you have, you
that's
know,
what is in that book. It is in this book. You
I
know.
love that.
So, and you know, so I talked about ADHD as well, and then I knew I had to write a book about it, you know, ADHD.
Amazing.
And, you know, and this one came out last July.
And it's been very well received. I've heard nothing but amazing things about the book. Lots of people lots of good insights, lots of like.
International.
Oh, that's me. Yeah, totally.
Amazing. You
very
know?
Cool.
So anyway, so I'm very excited about it. So because it's a superpower.
That's right.
I could not have done what I did without it.
Yeah.
And there is virtually not a day that goes by where I meet somebody that says, I've really not talked about this, but I have it too.
Really? Hey, wow.
Last 2 weeks ago, I think we did 3 guests on the podcast thing.
Yeah.
The one was a lady from Eugene, Oregon, that was very popular and is 29 years old. She discovered that she was already knew in her mind that she was ADHD, then became more public about it.
Right.
Then she went on TikTok and got, within a week, 8 million responses.
Well, it just shows that everybody is struggling with their own certain battles, you know, and we all feel alone in those battles that we have, you know.
Exactly.
We feel alone and isolated, and as soon as you start sharing your truth and sharing about your experience, people are like, hey, I resonate with that, and that's you're speaking to me because that's how I feel, and that's the adversity that I felt, and like, of course, people are gonna like gravitate to that because that's like opening up a window to their own experience. Be like, oh, I'm not alone.
And then the other part of it is saying, not only not alone, I like it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm now to the point
that change the conversation about it. It doesn't have to be this like stigmatized, oh no, I have ADHD.
It's just the opposite.
It's like, hey, I got ADHD and look at all the things I can accomplish.
And proud of it.
Damn right, absolutely.
And I've been sitting in settings where maybe a couple of people have ADHD and the other ones say, damn, I wish I had it too.
I had ADHD too. Anyway. They should be giving pills to give people ADHD, not try to like solve their ADHD.
Exactly.
Right?
Anyway, so that
never mind.
You know, that's where this one comes in, and then the other one, this one I'm going to sign for you too.
Yay.
Before we go.
Thank you.
And then the other one is that the one that we completed this morning, actually, the audio part. We did audios of all of those as well.
Important to do.
Yeah, important to do, and in my own voice.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So, and then the other one is finding your passion, living the dream.
Cool.
The other thing that we are doing is I started writing another book, is Living Young, Dying Old.
Oh my goodness. 4 books?
That's the fourth one.
That's going to be the fourth one.
Holy Toledo. I'm working on the fifth one too. It's a history of BC forest industry.
You're kidding? Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Good for you.
I'm going to try to write one a year. Yeah, for as long as I can.
Oh my gosh, good for you. Very cool.
Now, living young, dying old, you come to mind in my mind in a lot of ways. Because staying healthy and fit in terms of your diet and a healthy attitude and all those things together, you don't have to. I'm supposed to be the oldest competitive bodybuilder in North America.
Yeah.
You don't have to be that. You don't have to be an Olympian, but stay active mentally, physically.
Absolutely.
And become knowledgeable about healthy lifestyles. That's critical.
Yeah.
And that's exactly, I believe, what you are doing.
Well, I think that people, you ask anybody, no matter where they are, what they do, what do you want? What do you want in life? I want to be happy. I want to be healthy.
Right.
We're all searching for that.
Yeah.
And how do you cultivate that?
Yeah.
You can't just wake up and be like, I'm happy, I'm healthy. You got to you got to do things that support that, and working out or eating well or what you're consuming on the internet, the different books that you're reading. So you have to be an active participant in your healthy journey,
Yeah.
It's one thing to, think about doing yoga, but it's a whole nother thing to do the yoga and yoga, not necessarily the stretching part that people think of yoga is oh, you get on this yoga mat, you do these shapes. It's connecting to yourself, your body, your breath, what's going on in your emotions and your mental state, and then moving with that, that knowledge of who you are and how you feel. That's really important, I think, is
and so what you do, in fact, I believe, is saying that yoga is good, but it's not only about that. It is about all the other things.
Oh my gosh,
because you must
totally.
have mental wellness, then physical, and then from a diet perspective, doing the right thing, and then leave that and saying, something, I feel much better.
Or even if you don't, I think there's a few things about what people think yoga is in the Western world that I wish I could just kibosh all of these thoughts of what yoga is, because I think it really creates a boundary or a barrier for people to experience yoga, because they think that yoga is, I have to do this certain shape, I have to look a certain way while I'm doing it, I have to be able to touch my toes. It's all about the aesthetic. I feel like so many people have their heads wrapped around I can't quiet my mind, so I can't do yoga, or I can't do this physical posture, so I can't do yoga. But that is just a tiny little bit of what yoga is. And if people had the awareness that, hey, yoga is an opportunity that you're giving yourself to connect with yourself. And whether you're having a really bad day or you're having a really great day, honoring that and not just shoving it to the side and saying, oh, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm just going to pretend everything's okay. It's about really reflecting and being okay with not being okay as well. Mental health, your mental health can go up and down. Your emotions might be really strong one day and really subtle the next day. And you might eat a shitty meal and then feel crappy the next day, but it's about focusing on what does make me feel good, and how can I meet myself where I'm at today and move forward and not feel shame about whatever it is I was experiencing, or feel bad about myself because I ate that thing, or
So for people to contact you, have 2 locations. Are they doing similar things in both locations?
Yes and no.
Or how does it work so we'll have all kinds of people watching us internationally.
So cool.
Because those are all potential clients,
absolutely.
Right?
You can join us online.
Your clients are from all over, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We still run our virtual classes.
So what they've heard from you so far, they like. Say, interesting. Rachelle has the right thing here.
Yeah.
So step 1 is to watch you, there's a website. How did they contact you?
Oh, great question. So sunsetstudio.ca is our website.
Okay.
I don't know how many people use websites these days, but social media, if people are on social media, they can find us at Sunset Studio PG. I'm pretty active on the Sunset Studio page, so if somebody was to DM me and ask questions, I'd be happy to answer. They can send me an email through the contact page on the website. If they go on the website, that's awesome. And you can see everything that we offer there. So we've got our class schedule and our virtual classes, and we've got recordings, and gives a little description of each class. So if you're not quite sure, like, oh, what is relax and stretch? Gives you a little paragraph of what it is, and all of our costs are there. So yeah, tells you a little bit of everything.
So, okay, so they're male, female.
Oh yeah.
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 For one.
Very inclusive space. We have a very broad demographic. We've got a little bit of every flavor in the room. It's incredible. Yeah, I feel very grateful that we've got such diversity in the classrooms.
All in English?
All in English, yes, that is a good question. Yeah, all in English. I'm actually looking into so I have a few people in my community that are hard of hearing. So we might be adding captions on our virtual classes so that people can read as well as if they can't hear very well.
Probably be a good idea.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Anything to make it feel more inclusive and to not have barriers, right? It's hard enough to commit to doing something that's healthy for you sometimes, right? So just anything that we can do to make it easier.
So here is that person that has been watching us and saying, I like that. So then give that person an idea. If the average individual that comes to you, they say, how often should they interact with your yoga classes?
I love that question. I think that any amount is better than no amount. So if you come to a class once in a blue moon, that's awesome. Of course, that's better than nothing. Ideally, I think if you want to make a change in your emotional state, in your mental state, in your physical state, it's best to do something more often, right? You can overdo it. I do believe that. So I think the sweet spot is 3 times a week.
3 times a week.
3 times a week. And the thing about yoga that, again, many people may not know is that there's very different styles of yoga. So one class might be extremely passive, where you're on the ground and you're using supports, and it's more of like a nervous system experience than a physical experience. You're tapping into some longer breaths, and you're giving yourself an opportunity to rest, which in our culture, in our society, we don't really do that very often. So just relaxation could be what you're looking for. Or and there's a spectrum here, there's lots in between, but you could come to a class that you are sweating and it is challenging, and you are using every single muscle in your body, and you are leaving feeling like, oh my gosh, my body is alive and full of energy, and there's everything in between. So you can
I had a lady here, forgetting how long ago, and so I don't know exactly and this sounds like, but I don't. But I thought
you do a lot of podcasts. I'm sure it's hard to remember everybody's conversation that you have.
Yeah. So, and she said, "Okay, you might be doing something." I said, "No, I don't." She said, "Okay, do this. Close your eyes."
Yeah.
And then she started to talk. Yeah, and very, very interesting.
Wow.
How she was going about that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder if was that because I've watched most of your podcasts. Was it a little grounding exercise that you ended up doing, where you did like a tap around your temples? I feel like I watched one that was it looked very interesting. She would let you through a little grounding exercise.
Scott.
I can't remember who it was.
Scott, help.
Huh? Oh, it was Brooklyn. Okay, Brooklyn. Yeah, she teaches at my studio. She's incredible. Yeah, Brooklyn Dirksen. Yeah, she led you through a little grounding exercise. It was really cool to watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
And so all those things are, because precisely what you were saying, yoga is not just yoga.
It's not just the physical.
As you, not you, but you, the public, understand yoga, including me. It's not like that. It is much more than that. And it's
for everyone. It's for everyone.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how fit you are or not, how old you are or young. It's for everyone.
It reminds me, years and years ago, I used to go to the gym, and all the guys that are like this, and I look like saying, well, why is he here?
Yeah.
You know, I don't
right.
even, you know, it's so intimidating.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of people, you know, they still look at this, well, I don't look as good as she does or he does.
I know. I just want to get in people's heads and shake them and say, you know, it doesn't matter what it looks like. It's not about what's going on outside of yourself. It's about what's going on inside yourself.
But the one thing that does matter is for people in a general sense, living young means that I know people, and so do you, that are 35, 40 years old. They are old.
They're old, yeah, absolutely.
And then I know other people that are 80 to 83 that are young.
Exactly.
And old.
Yeah, it just shows that there's no that there's no age limit to health. I really believe that, just because age is not a diagnosis. You know, just because you're older does not mean that you cannot live well.
It's not about numbers.
No, not at all.
It's about fitness, frame of mind. Unless you person have decided I'm old. Okay, well, if you decide you're old, then that's what you are.
Yes.
Don't have to be.
Exactly.
Right? You know, and then, but it also depends. Are you willing to make a commitment in terms of it takes some effort, but not extraordinary.
Yeah.
But it takes some effort.
Little steps. Little steps can go a long, long way. Yeah. Absolutely. That's what I was saying about, like, if somebody wants to get into yoga, into a mindfulness practice, start with 10 minutes. You know, it doesn't have to be this huge, you don't have to come to my studio to experience the benefits of yoga. Like, you can do it anywhere. You can do it at a park, at your home, in your bed, wherever, and just connect with yourself. And that little opportunity that you've given yourself, that pocket of time, you'll feel the benefits of that, and then you'll probably want to do it for longer, and then for longer.
So their person X says, I like what she's talking about, and I like what they are talking about. Yeah. And that includes me, hypothetically, not me, but they. And then, although I like it too, but you know, then they say, okay, what should I do? She is now giving me the website is
sunsetstudio.ca.
Yeah.
Super easy.
Yeah, super easy. Yeah. So she contacted, and now she already knows, or he knows, that you don't have to be there physically. It is a very easy way to go into it gradually, and it's flexible. It's not, a lot of the gyms are, you know, I may be wrong about, I'm a member of a gym and I like it, but you know, you come into the gym and say, okay, you want a membership that costs you $1,500.
Right, okay.
And then, well, I'm only there, well, that's the way it is. You know?
Exactly. We have options. We have options for people.
And that's extremely important, right?
Oh my gosh,
so
of course.
I can, new person watching, I can gradually go into it. It certainly will help me. I like the idea. It has such a broad range of things. Now, from a cost perspective, if they do that, and they do that for a week, and they say I don't like it, well, it's not a big deal.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have very low commitment options for people, like a drop-in rate. So you just come in one time, no big deal. You like it, cool. If you don't, that's okay. You only paid for one time. And then we have what we call class pass bundles. So you buy like a 5 or a 10 or 20 visits. And same thing, no commitment. You buy it one time. You use it, you don't use it. That's up to you, you know? And then we have membership options as well. Our membership options are like a one-time. You buy a 1-month membership, and then you've got the 30 days to give her as many classes as you want. It's unlimited. You get access to both studios, online, in person, all the things. And then after those 30 days, no more payments. Or what a lot of my members do is the recurring membership. And that's the best bang for your buck. It's the least expensive option, but it's the longer commitment. So you're paying continuously.
But now you've figured out.
But you figured
like
out.
It,
yeah, exactly. Those people are the ones that are like, we love this place. And then there's the annual membership. And this is really cool. So I put a discount on our annual membership last year. So that's a 1-year membership. And I was able to run a report. I just did this last week. So people that bought that membership at a discounted rate last year, I ran a report to see how many times they visited and how much it cost them per class for for that full year.
Yeah.
And some of them were paying as low as $4.25 for their classes because
Oh.
that's how often they are attending classes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's $1,000. Like that's a lot of money for a lot of people. I'm not saying it's not.
Exactly.
But do you get a coffee every once in a while and you pay $7 for a coffee and it's like it makes you
Honestly.
excited for like an hour, but your yoga practice can change your life. Like
no question.
it totally can, right?
Yeah,
So
no
so
question.
yeah.
Excellent. So I like that, and you know, but it is still, as we did while you were discussing it, it's still evolving further and further. But it's the future.
Oh yeah.
Like your model is the future, in my opinion. You know, so
I think continuing to learn and grow too, right? Like right now I'm actually leading a teacher training. So 7 years after getting my teacher training, I am facilitating a teacher training.
Right.
And one of the biggest things that I'm telling them is that continue to learn. Like what I'm telling you right now, in a year from now, you might not resonate with that anymore, and you might change the way that you teach and how you facilitate your classes, and that's okay. Don't get stuck because things are always evolving and changing, and you are always evolving and changing, and your students are always evolving and changing. So come at it from the mindset of like you can be wrong. You're allowed to be wrong, and then change and adapt, and then continue to like facilitate in a way that's really authentic and true to the experience that is at that exact moment.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The key that I'm hearing, Rachel, from the way it used to be, is you're not stuck. There you signed up to something and now you're stuck.
Yeah.
Stuck
Yeah.
meaning you paid all this money and
Yeah.
you know, no, this is different.
Yeah.
Substantially. It's not just, okay, you got your membership, you walk in, and for that we really don't care as long as you pay your membership. It's
and
not.
we're very committed to our community. Like myself and all of the instructors, we take time out. I definitely take time out of my day to message my members and the people that have come to my classes and say, hey, how was your first visit? How did it go? You know, and check in with them after our instructors teach. They stop and say, hey, how did the class feel? You know, so it's not just this like, you're in, you're out, you're just a number. It's a connection, and it's so what we learned from COVID is we need people, right? Community is so important.
And much more than yoga. It is that much more is much more than yoga.
Yeah.
It is the entire person.
Absolutely.
I find it amazing.
Yeah.
You know, so anything that comes to mind that you want to mention? I'm just going to sign.
Sign away. Thank you. Maybe just that I'm doing the annual membership discount again. So if anybody wants to join us for a full year, it's 10% off. And then also I've got a summertime sale. So 3 months for $300. And we're doing lots of fun things this summer. I've got tons of special events. I do stand-up paddleboard yoga. I'm leading retreats. We've got classes happening at the winery, so lots of opportunities.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I'm glad that
the
you tell that.
winery is amazing. So the Northern Lights Estate Winery here in Prince George, Fruit Winery, they were one of the very first companies to take a chance on me. I started teaching for them so I got certified in spring of 2016, and they were my first teaching job really, because I started teaching there in June of that year and doing yoga in the orchard. So it's a pretty cool thing. This will be our 7th year. We do it every year and it's so fun. And I just absolutely love teaching outside. It's one of my favorite things. So you'll have to join us.
I like it.
Yeah, Mondays at 5:30.
Rachelle,
Thank you so much.
I'm going to give you a big hug, but we have to just get on
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
And
Thank you so much for this.
2
I
books
really
for you.
appreciate it.
And we'll get you the other book as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachelle.
Thank you so much.